Okay guys, it's December, and keeping with our theme, we're going to be talking about game birds. Now I know it's just been Thanksgiving and you just had your beautiful, delicious, succulent turkey, and you don't want to look at another roast bird or any kind of bird outside of chicken for the next year. But today I want to talk to you about duck. So many people are so concerned and scared about cooking duck because they've had bad experiences. It's greasy, it's chewy. There is an artistry to cooking duck that I want to talk to you today and demystify about it. So it is considered to be a game bird. This does not mean that you need to know a hunter or you need to go out and shoot your own bird. There's plenty of great producers that have duck at a high quality, good foods market. Today we're going to talk about the economics in buying a whole bird. You don't need to roast a whole duck for yourself. That's a 6 to 8 person meal. You can do that if you want to. But I want to talk to you about purchasing the whole duck and being able to break it down and get several meals out of one bird. So today we're not going to mess around. We're going to get right to it. First thing, you get your whole duck and you want to coddle it like a small child in your hands like this. You don't have to do that, but that's the way I prefer to work with them. So the things we're going to look at is the breasts and the thighs. And then you have these little beautiful pieces of fat here that we can cut off and render later. And then you have the bones underneath all of this too to make a beautiful stock or a sauce or a soup or whatever it is you want to make. We're going to get into breaking this duck down into components and talk about how to cook them separately because they do require their own specific ways of preparation. Okay, first thing we're going to look at here is we have our breasts and then we have our thighs. You'll notice with the duck is that it has much more pronounced sternum. So identify where that is once you see this line right here, you're going to gently cut in and use your knife to right up against that bone and come all the way down here. Now you'll notice right in here is the collarbone. You're going to cut in, you'll find out where that is, go right to that point. Now you're going to use your fingers to get in here and pull back the breast, and again, ride the bone. Pull a little gently to separate the meat from the bone. Coming right above the hip bone, cut right in. You'll see the separation naturally between the breast meat and the thigh meat. Disconnect from the collarbone. Pull, again, with your knife flipped upside down, cut through. There you go. There is your first breast. The next thing you're going to roll into is seeing where the ribs connect right here to the thigh. You're going to disconnect that connective tissue, pull apart the ribs, and using your fingers, find out where the hip joint meets the spine, and then you're going to take it, once you see where that flex point is here, pop it back. You will feel a disconnection. You'll see the ball joint come through. Now you're going to come up here, cut through just until you meet that particular ball joint there that's been disconnected to the hip joint. Cut straight down through, minding your fingers. And now you have your thigh and your drumstick. You'll also have your innards here that you pulled out. Hold on to these, put these into a small bowl that you'll work on later. Either gonna enjoy them in a frying pan or you're gonna put them into a Ziploc bag and enjoy them later on when you have a good amount to do something with. Proper appetizer. Okay, now that we have our breasts and our thighs separated and set aside, we're gonna move into cleaning up the carcass and holding on to the bones. The duck fat and the bones are very, very valuable. We're gonna use the bones for making stocks and sauces, and we're gonna hold on to the fat. We're gonna put it into a food processor afterwards to blend it up, and then we're gonna put it into a pan and cook out all the fat, basically render the fat, and we're gonna hold on to that. You can choose whether you want to use it immediately afterwards or stockpile it in the freezer just like your bones. I like a minimum of at least 2 to 3 carcasses of bones before I make a stock out of it. Same thing with the duck fat. You can pour it in, freeze it, pour another batch in, freeze it. My goal is after this video, I want you to be so excited about cooking duck, you're going to be cooking it every couple weeks. Okay, so now that we have all of our fat cleaned off of the carcass, we're going to go ahead and put this aside into a bowl, put that into a Ziploc bag and freeze it until you have, like I mentioned earlier, maybe 2 or 3 carcasses to really have it be worth your time. Same thing with the fat. You're going to put that in a separate bowl and freeze that until you have a good amount, and then we'll put that into the food processor and we'll cook it over a low heat to render out the fat. Continuing our conversation on ducks, we're going to work right into breasts here. Early in my career, a real sense of pride for me was learning how to cook a duck breast the proper way, and I judged many restaurants that I went out to based off of how well they cook the duck breast, because you have to render out this fat cap on top of the breast. This is where a lot of people make the mistake and have duck, or been to a restaurant and had somebody prepare the duck for them that they don't know how to do it, and it becomes very unpleasant. You need to start it in a cold pan, and you need to break the skin layer in order to render out the fat. If you don't do that and you put that into a smoking hot pan like you would with a chicken breast, all you're going to do is you're going to crisp up the skin, and the fat is never going to render out, and then all of a sudden you're presented with this duck breast that's cooked fine, but it feels like it has a rubber band on top of it that is this raw, chewy fat cap, and it turns out to be something horrible where you have to cut the skin off in order to enjoy it. But if you prepare it the correct way, it can be something that's truly enjoyable and something you really look forward to. Very important part of scoring the duck breast, you have to have a very sharp knife. So have a nice steel, run it over a whetstone if you need to, make sure it's as sharp as it possibly can be. Our goal is to not cut into the meat, to be able to just break the skin so the fat underneath can render out. To start off, horizontal in front of you. Using your knuckles as a guide, put your knife right up against here, slowly drag across the top. Just breaking the skin on top. It's a good meditative process to really take your time here. The colder you can have this right out of the refrigerator so the fat tenses up, the better it is. You're almost just using the weight of the knife. Once you've made your initial marks, you're going to turn it 90 degrees and do a cross hatch pattern. We're going to season our duck breasts right onto a pan. I like to season any protein onto a pan so that all the rest of the excess that falls off, I can use it as a mop to mop it all up so nothing's wasted. A little bit of salt, a bit of fresh ground pepper, and we use it as a mop. And now we're going to go ahead and directly put our duck breast into a cold pan to start and bring it up over medium-low heat. This is where the sense of pride really comes in with cooking the duck breast. For me, this makes all the difference in the world. We're looking to slowly get that fat out of here. What you're going to want is some kind of vessel sitting right next to your pan that you're slowly going to be collecting this fat off of. Pour the fat right in. If the pan is getting too hot, move it off the heat. You're cooking the food, it's not cooking you. You want to bring it down till you stop hearing the sizzle. Once you stop hearing the sizzle, move it back onto the heat and continue cooking. We're slowly looking to take that fat down and down and down and down. Okay, a little pro tip when we're talking about pressing down the breast so they cook nice and evenly across the skin is I like to use a similar sized pan. We'll put directly on top of the pan and use something just to weigh it down because we're looking to really create an even surface here. So in this case, because I have it right here, I'm going to go ahead and use my salt container right on top. Every few minutes, pour the fat off. Now that we've taken our breast about 2/3 of the way, you can start to see, use your tongs, you'll see it's got a nice sort of golden color to it. You have about a tablespoon of fat in here after you've poured off so much more. Don't get rid of this. Hold on to this because this is gold. The next thing we're going to do after we've cooked it to about 2/3 of the way, turn them over. Nice color on the breasts. Turn them over. Once you flipped over the duck breast, we're going to let it cook for probably about another minute, and then we're going to let it rest off of the heat for about 5 minutes. Okay, now that we let our duck breast rest for about 5 minutes, we're going to go ahead and cut into it. Go ahead and plate our duck breasts up here. Now, you want to cook this medium rare, nothing more than that because it's going to taste tough and gamey and be very dry. Now, if you were paying attention earlier to our videos, and if you weren't, come on now. We did a beautiful video about our preserved cranberries in champagne vinegar and honey. This goes really nice with this. So we're gonna put a couple spoons of this on top here. Beautiful. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is. Enjoy that in your holidays. Every day of the week, you could enjoy this meal.